Hey Cancer, this is your May 24 soul story. If you've got a sun rising or your moon is in the sign, you might find these messages resonate and help you move through the next few weeks. It's Romy here. Thank you for joining me on the channel. We're going to open up this month with the energy of the Emperor for you. You are building this sort of unstoppable momentum in May, and it might not feel that way as you're in the trenches, so to speak, but you know, there is this sense of needing to keep going, because even if things feel insignificant or frustrating or at times without reward, you know, the foundations that you're building are incredibly powerful, and they're setting you up to be in a much stronger position with something in your life. Now, as we open up May, we have Pluto stationing retrograde in Aquarius. You're going to be reflecting, as you do every year when Pluto takes a backspin, around themes of power and control, and really assessing the internal shifts that you want to be making to address some of the tendencies, the compulsions, the addictions, obsessions, you know, and those areas of your life that, you know, perhaps you're still trying to force or push, and where expectations have been leading you towards making much more transformative changes. The Emperor puts you in a really strong position to be able to do that, and you also come with this huge amount of like lived experience in May, and I think you'll find that kind of cropping up all over the place. Like, people will be seeking you out because they'll be like, you know, you've been through this, or that happened to you, or you'll be able to share things anecdotally, but you know, also in ways that immeasurably improve other people's you know, opportunities and understandings for what they're going through. So don't underestimate the significance of what you have to say. You know, there are things that you need to express, words that can't be spoken, you know, they end up becoming symptoms. And I think there's something for you this month that's actually incredibly healing about just sharing what you've been through. And even if you feel yourself like, I'm not out the other side of this yet, or I've still got challenges pertaining to this, I think you're going to start to be able to reflect and more clearly see the progress and the journey that you've been on, and from that kind of extract the ways in which you've changed and you're continuing to change, and all of that helping to kind of formulate like a clearer picture for you for, you know, what comes next. Now, we arrive at this new moon in Taurus on the 7th of the month, and I really love this energy for you. I think, you know, there are several options on the table here. Each one of them, in some aspects, are sort of underpinning a theme that at a soul level you're going to be addressing at some stage anyway. So it's just kind of down to a preference of what you're feeling into around that time as being something that feels a priority, or that you feel particularly moved by. You know, it might be more of an adventurous pathway, or something that feels more creative, more healing. You know, the understanding with this though is that, you know, all of these options that come up around this new moon, all of the pathways ultimately lead you home and are helping to provide you with a richer, deeper understanding of yourself, and a strength to be able to kind of take on what comes next. And actually, I really like this combination for you this month, Cancer, of the Emperor and Strength, because it just tells me you're sort of ready to face things, and you've got this discipline, this emotional strength coupled with this discipline that puts you in like a really prominent place with yourself. And of course, you know, throughout the day there, you know, throughout the days there may be times where you're feeling like, I can't find the answer today. And in that moment, all I'm going to say to you is just be kind to yourself and be kind to others, because there may be a sort of withdrawing energy just until you regulate and then come back to the table, or come back to the goal, or back to the conversation, or whatever that is, whatever that looks like. So, the new moon in Taurus really sparks a new conversation for you. And I think you're definitely reflecting on the fallout of the eclipse, fundamentally triggering each and every one of us, even if you haven't fully come to terms with how that's happened. Although I would beg to say that it's probably been quite clear for you what has surfaced and come to light for you. And the thing that we really understand is, when we're not exploring and discovering and indulging and acknowledging the purpose that we have, that can manifest itself in feelings of agitation or apathy or anger, resentment. And so, what is it going to take for you through the course of May to really be committed and devoted to giving yourself permission to keep exploring the thing that you know you want to, that your heart is speaking loudly to you about? Because there is this huge kind of watershed moment taking place in your life now, and it's like, as we approach the midway part of the year, there is going to be this huge sense of, okay, what's happened leading up to this point, and what am I going to do with the remainder of the months ahead? So there are bigger, bolder choices and decisions being made. Your high priest is coming in telling me you're going to commit to something. You actually have the strength to see this through. You've got what it takes to be able to take this on. There's also this sense, again, as I indicated, that your knowledge has this value attached to it. Yes, perhaps for some of you monetarily, if it ends up, being something that you're meant to be moving in that direction with. But other than that, even from just a nurturing, compassionate counseling, being there for people, it's like the way that you can educate through your lived experience is really helping to bring quite a cathartic, healing release for you. So keep that in mind. Now, the asteroid goddess Ceres is shifting retrograde in Capricorn on the 14th. What she's really teaching us in this placement is how to survive. And, there's that aspect of, as we make our way in the world, particularly as we're, considering and aware of our own image, our own reputation, but also, the way in which collectively energies are shifting, the divide is happening more. And it's like, where, I putting my allegiances? Like, how am I redefining my own moral compass? Like, what are the things that I'm going to need in order to keep me feeling like my head can, stay above water, regardless of like what might be happening on the external? So Sarah is really powerfully stepping forth in this next cycle so that we can address these things. We also have Pallas Athena, asteroid goddess, going retrograde in Scorpio. And the benefit here, along with Pluto, backspinning, is that we get right down to sort of the origin, the source, the root of things. And we just figure out a strategy. We figure out a way to enable us to have that rebirth experience, that complete overhaul, that shifting identity. You've got Queen of Pentacles coming through here. You're showing me a strong sense of being capable, even if there's moments when you don't feel it, right? We're human after all, but you're showing me this month a sort of relentless ability and a resiliency to keep saying, okay, I've been knocked back, but I'm just going to pick myself back up. And, I'm resourceful enough to know that there is more than one way to do this. But, what I need most is to bring this attitude an approach forward that says whatever it takes, and I can do this. And you really can. Your strength card is showing me that is the case. I think you're going to be busy, and there is this sense of, there's work to do here. So whatever area of your life you're prioritizing, there is this sense of needing to address certain aspects of it that are not working anymore. And I think there's a real clarity around that for you. It's just like, I cannot keep doing this. Like, not only is it going to make me go insane, but it literally also feels like it's going against everything in my whole physical body. There's a very visceral feeling that you have that it's like, if this doesn't get dealt with, I'm going to end up making myself ill over this. So it's quite a strong current of change that I think you're mandating yourself, but also you're feeling into, because it's kind of being directed by, your higher mind in the direction that you're meant to be going. Taurus energy, of course, helping us to value things differently, and also also to put the work in, like sowing seeds that we know are going to be sustainable for us. So you're no longer saying yes to things that feel like they're offering a quick fix or to try to placate others. This is genuinely about, how do I meet my own needs, wants and desires here? I've got to keep exploring and discovering what is going to help me to feel like I'm growing. If I don't do that, and if I don't give myself the time and space and freedom and oxygen for that to take place, then you're going to end up feeling more and more resentful about how you've been almost put in a place where you feel like you've got limited choice or options, which isn't the case. But this is the tension that's existing, I think, between this kind of power and control dynamic. And it doesn't really, in some aspects, matter the person that might be triggering you or the situation, but know that there will be players that are showing up to kind of trigger you in that way, because you're going through this overhaul, you're going through this, you know, beautiful reevaluation in your life, and you're really kind of putting your position. Like, one of the things that's coming through really strongly for me in this reading for you this month of May, Cancer, is just like, this is my position. Yeah, so you're telling people, you know, like, this is where I stand, this is what I think, this is what I believe. And, you know, I think that's going to be a really important sort of way to take on this first month of May. And the reason I say that is, you know, as we move further into the month, we're going to have a shift with Jupiter into Gemini. So I'll come back to that shortly. But in the meantime, there's a couple of really beautiful dates emerging in May, which help us to sort of feel like this is a month where things are a little bit more steady. You know, Taurus helping us with that, but, you know, these are dates later in the month as we also come into Gemini season. So on the 18th, Sun and Jupiter bringing in some lucky opportunities, and there is an offer or an idea or an inspiration that shows up, you know, around that 18th of the month, mid-month, and, you know, you can feel into the power of it. So even if it feels a bit insignificant as, you know, it's discussed or presented, or in the way that it shows up for you, remember what I said, you're like building this unstoppable momentum. And, you know, through that new moon in Taurus, you'll have decided on the, you know, number of choices that have been available to you on a specific pathway or course. And it feels to me like that will come through and then validate something for you in terms of what you've already been leaning into or thinking about. For some of you, like on the work front and the work capacity, there's a really interesting door that gets opened for you, previously shut to you. So something that wasn't available or felt very difficult to access, all of a sudden becoming something that is, you know, free and clear for you. Now remember, we're also working in 11th house energy through Taurus season. So as you leverage your network, as you think about the ways you're utilizing technology, shifts and changes that will be going on in and around this space will become much more important to you. And also help to kind of create and spark new debate. It's just like I see you having conversations with different people, yeah, people that you wouldn't necessarily like run into ordinarily. It's just like new connections are forming as a result of this. Your community is changing. So in order for that to happen, you might also find just naturally, organically, you're withdrawing or removing yourself from certain places and spaces in order to hold space for the newness that wants to show up for you. So really love that ace coming in. There's a huge amount of growth set to happen in that second part of May. And as the sun, you know, shifts into Gemini on the 20th, yes, we're moving into your 12th house, which is bringing an awful lot of sort of closure to situations. And remember, like the 12th house, you know, it's a tricky one. You know, it's bringing a lot of the unconscious into the conscious. There's a lot of healing that's going on. A lot's happening, you know, behind the scenes. The Tower for me here feels more internal rather than necessarily something happening in your immediate environment externally. So what I would say in regards to this is that there's a breaking free energy, because there's so much kind of stoic, grounded, certain, focused energy that I'm picking up, that when we get to the point of the Tower, it's almost like an inevitable that you're kind of like, well, of course this has to happen. Like I have to completely obliterate this old belief that I had, or this construct that I was abiding by, you know. So there's something fundamentally changing within you. Now that even on paper can sound like, well, of course that makes sense, but to live through it, and remember, you're really reflecting on your lived experience. And often, you know, when we've got those stories to share, that knowledge to impart, it's usually because things were damn hard. It's not that we share a story that says, well, this was so easy and I did this and that happened. And yeah, great, good luck, on you go. You know, it's about overcoming the adversity and the resiliency and the hardship and the challenge and the rawness and the breakdown. And it's all of these things that, you know, with the richness of them all coming together, change you fundamentally. And so, you know, of course that Tower is going to create some sort of internal mini crisis point. But what I'm going to say to you is you have everything backing up and supporting you in the realization and acceptance of what needs to happen there. And remember, destruction energy is required for creator energy to thrive, okay? So this is the message to take from this, because as we come into the end of the month, there's huge, beautiful, fertile growth coming in. Now that full moon Sagittarius on the 23rd has some beautiful conversations also taking place with Venus, and it just feels like there is a richness to it, okay? And I think that you'll come out of the other side of this in and around that sort of full moon, but the kind of the silver lining, if you like, the thing that helps you to realize, okay, well, that had to happen. It's almost like the breakdown to have the breakthrough will be incredibly clear for you. And something around that full moon, yes, might rattle you a little bit or may feel a bit turbulent in some regards, but ultimately it completely redefines your vision for yourself and your future, okay? And then the thing to keep in mind is we're then going to arrive at Jupiter changing sign on the 25th. So a big change happening here as it comes out of Taurus and into Gemini. And, you know, in this fast moving, mutable sign, there's this kind of overwhelming amount of information flooding the senses, right? Remember Jupiter amplifying. And there's almost like this feeling of splintering off. You know, Gemini has this polarity. And so it's like we have to find ways in order to kind of reconcile all of these different truths and realities and what makes sense, what's truth, what's fake, what's the lie, what's real. And this is why it's so important early on in the month, and you're showing me you got this, to have a kind of focus and a knowing and a trust and a belief, and this is what I stand for, this is my position. So no matter what gets thrown at you, you still have that kind of internal barometer, if you like, that says, that feels too far away from, you know, my truth, my essence, my alignment. And, you know, there'll be a lot trying to persuade you otherwise over the next few months. Things start to shift and happen very, very quickly. There's this viral component of things happening and exploding. And, you know, so it's also the realization that a lot of the seeds and the things that you're considering and wanting to manifest and put out there, you know, can also take on a life of their own and move you in ways that can feel very surprising in their kind of light speed. And so you'll start to get a little tinge of that toward the end of May as well, feeling into, gosh, this is kind of going at rocket speed. I didn't anticipate that something would happen and move so quickly. And that feels like it has to happen after that Tower, because up to that point, everything feels a little bit like slow, steady, you know, considerate. But this is why I'm saying you're building this unstoppable momentum, but it doesn't feel like that initially in the beginning part of May, okay? Now, if you're new to the channel, Cancer, our last 3 cards we cover in the extended version of my reading. You'll find the link in the comment and description box beneath. We talk for another 30 minutes or so. We'll also look at a personal card and a relationship card for you as well. So I hope you'll join me if it's resonating. Just going to go ahead and pull some clarifiers. We'll see the direction we're going to be taking some of these messages in for you. So just beginning with the energy of the Emperor, we've got 6 of Wands coming in and the Star, beautiful. Strength coming through with the Hermit and the Devil. Lots of majors showing up here. 6 of Swords, High Priestess, we've got Knight of Cups, we've also got the King of Wands, Death, and the Moon, Queen of Swords here, Empress energy, so many majors, the Five of Coins here with that Tower, Four of Staffs, let's pull one more there, Wheel of Fortune, okay. Now you can find my sacred titles, my book and my deck. You can check out ways to work with me and the services that I'm offering right now. And also all my sacred soul support to help you on your spiritual journey over on my website, romywiser.com. So please do check that out. You'll find over there my own deck, Life Soul Vision Oracle. So let's have a look at this now, see how it wants to add to the conversation for us this month. We've got Spirit Crane coming in. Mirrors of the Mind, the Guide and the Gift, Solar Plexus Energy, love that for you, Detours from the Divine, put this one, Crown Energy, Activations of Wisdom. Okay, so a couple more oracles just for messages for our extended readings. This is for Cancer from May. What do we have? We've got Omega and Limitless. And finally, you've got the Threshold coming through as well. Okay, Cancer, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you'll join me for the extended. We'll continue this conversation. Have a wonderful month of May. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.